Hi guys, this is Mrs. Lazar and I'm going to be teaching you about Adobe Photoshop. For some of you, this might be your first experience with an Adobe program or your first experience with Photoshop. So, first thing is you need to find the program. I have it right here down on my dock. It's this blue, dark blue and light blue logo with the P and the S standing for Photoshop. Okay, you can look for it in your Finder or find it on your dock. Click on it and it will open. It'll load and it should open and look like this. And you'll wonder, well, how come it didn't open with a document? What's here? I can't do anything. Well, basically, Photoshop opens as if you have an empty easel standing in front of you with all of your palettes. Now, when I say palette, I'm referring to these different menus that are open on the side over here and this toolbar over here. This is your color palette. Specifically, when we say palette, we're referencing the art palette where you put your different colors for painting, and that's over here. So if you don't have these items, okay, for instance, if yours looks like this, that might worry you, right? Or if your toolbar is not there, that might also bother you. So we're going to talk about how do we get that stuff if it does not appear. Now remember, right now you might see those toolbars and those palettes, those different menus, but in the event that you log on and you open Photoshop and they are missing, or you may hit a button and they go missing, I want you to know where to find them. So I'm going to go up here to Window, and an easy way to get your workspace back to normal is to click on Essentials. But since I took away some of those, we're going to just say Reset Essentials. Okay, if you saw that, is Essentials, Reset Essentials. Now, you can also get to that right here, Window, Workspace, Reset Essentials. Basically, Essential Workspace is the basic setup that most of you will need. On occasion, you can add other menus, and you see here there are other styles of setup, but I do suggest you stick to this. However, again, if you were to lose, for instance, just the toolbar, you want to know how to find that, you again open up the Window button, and these are all the different palettes that you have. Okay, these different windows that can be opened up. And all the way at the bottom is the Tools bar. And there it is. So now it's actually floating in midair. All of your palettes can potentially float around the screen. And the reason for this is so that you can customize. That means make it your own when you are working and put them wherever you'd like them to be so that you can maximize your workspace and see the work that you will eventually be working on and putting right here on your easel. I like to have my toolbars and all my palettes clicked to the edge. If you see here, I'm bringing it all the way to the edge and you'll see a little blue line pop up. That means it's ready to click in. And there it is. It's stuck on the edge. And now here, I'm going to do the same thing on the right hand side. And they're there. Now you can expand and collapse these. So right now, if I go onto these two little arrows, I'm going to collapse them. I can expand this. I can expand this again. Whenever you're ready, you can expand or collapse it. Same thing goes for this toolbar. You can change the setup of it. Now, I encourage you to explore. If you see little arrows, go ahead and click on it. Again, something like this, right? See what it says. Before you jump to I don't know or I need help, I encourage you to read, to look through menus, to look through these upper menus, and possibly, hopefully, figure out what you're looking for. In addition to that, before I get started on the actual documents, you can always go to the internet. Google has a lot of information. Feel free to type in a question if you are looking to do a certain task in Photoshop or in another software. You certainly can try and find your answer. Most likely, somebody else has already tried to do that and they've posted it to the internet. Okay, so now we're going to get down to how do we use this program and how do we adjust photos and do all kinds of cool things. So now you need to know how do you put your piece of paper up there. File, new, and this gives you this new screen. For my students who have been exploring and learning Adobe InDesign, you might remember this screen. And this is where you're going to give your document a name and you're going to choose what size that you would like it. Okay, for this first exploration of the software, I will tell you the exact sizes and you can just name it Exploring Photoshop. And then why don't you do underscore and then put your name, Mrs. Lazar. You should not put Mrs. Lazar. Please put your first name. Next, I'd like you to click on where it said preset, and we are going to choose a preset size paper. Okay. Once you move away from a preset paper and you change these dimensions, then it may turn to custom. But for now, we're going to use a preset US paper, and that's a standard, and we're going to choose legal, which is a regular piece of paper that you have in your printer. As you see, it's 8.5 inches, and if yours does not say inches, please switch it to inches, and 11 inches. Now for resolution. For printing, you do want to use around 300 pixels per inch, okay, which is the units for resolution. However, that makes the file 24 megabytes. We don't need it to be that big in our beginning exploration, so I'm going to drop this down to 150, so about half of that. I'm going to keep the color mode as RGB 8-bit. I'm not going to go into those details. I'm going to keep our background white. At this time, you can click OK. So here you go. You have a piece of paper. So now I'm going to just walk through some of the basic tools in Photoshop so that you know what you're looking at here. So let's first take a look. All right, this tool, which you're probably already on, is going to be super important, like your best friend, like that. Again, for the InDesign students, it's like that filled in arrow in InDesign. This is going to help you with a lot of things in Photoshop. And this is referred to as the Move tool. Again, any tool, if you hover over it, which means move your mouse over it and sit it there for a moment, it will give you the name of the tool. So for instance, this next one is called the Rectangle Marquee. This is the Lasso tool. And this is the Magic Wand tool. Okay. I'm not going to walk you through the names of everything. Of course, you can take a look at that on your own. Crop tool, etc., etc. Now, you may have noticed these little arrows in the corner. Remember it talked about arrows, how arrows give you options? Same thing here. If a tool has an arrow and you can hold down your mouse, left click, remember left side, click it and hold it down, and other tool options will appear. So basically we call it a flyout menu, and you'll have additional options. So for the lasso tool, you have your freehand lasso, your polygonal lasso tool. It means it goes in shapes and line segments, and your magnetic lasso tool. We will experiment a bit with the lasso tool during our portrait project. And I'll show you an additional one. Let's go down here to the paint bucket. See, it's called paint bucket tool. If I hold it down, it also houses, that means it shares a space with the gradient tool. The most common question I get from students is, where's my paint bucket tool? I don't have a paint bucket tool. Mrs. Lazar, I can't fill in a shape because I don't have it. And I looked up here and I can't find it. Well, that's because it actually shares a space with the gradient tool, and the previous student may have left it on the gradient tool. So don't worry, just go ahead and click on that. Of course, it will take time to learn where everything is and explore all of the options. Okay, so now we're going to go over to this side. We're going to take a quick look. We have color. Okay, this is where you can change your color. Now, if you notice, whenever I change my color here, I'm seeing the reaction, the same reaction over here. So now I'm going to make that foreground color pink. It's pink over here. If I want to change my background color, okay, I just had to click on it, and now I can change the background color. And again, the same thing here. Now, if you want to just quickly go back to black and white, to the default, that means the original setup, you just can click right here on the black and white little boxes, and it'll pop it back to black and white. Okay, I'm going to show you something else. I'm going to change my colors again to red and pink. Foreground red, background pink. Let's take a look at how these colors actually work. Okay, hold that thought because we're going to apply it in a moment. Now we're going to look at layers. Layers are like pieces of paper on top of each other. You automatically have a background layer, which is filled in white, and it's a locked layer. Okay? I would like you to actually unlock that layer. Okay, so we're going to double click it, and it's going to open up, and it's going to be called layer 0. And we can just call it, layer 1. Okay. So now I want you to experiment with this paint bucket tool. If you left click, you're going to see that everything is going to turn red. Okay. Now, if you want to, use the background tool, if you want to use the background color, you can then switch it. So here we have our layers, and I just threw on some color. I'm going to keep it to the red, and I'm just going to show you quickly how the layers work. I'm going to grab my paint brush tool. Okay, so again, I held down because I do want you to see what else is under there. Okay, you have your brush tool, your pencil tool, color replacement tool, and mixer brush tool. I'm just going to work on the basic brush tool. Up here, you have your brush sizes. Okay, now, right now it's on 82 pixels. If I go to 193, you see my circle got bigger. I'm going to go even bigger. Now it's kind of hard to control it and figure out what size you want it to be. I want you to kind of see what this does. Okay, that's one. I left clicked once. I can click and drag, make a little snake. Okay, But let's say I'm working and I suddenly need my paintbrush to be bigger. Well, of course you can go up here, but you can also use the brackets on your keyboard. The bracket on the right makes it bigger, and the bracket on the left makes it smaller. So, you see here? Can even play around. If you take a look, and I change the color, and I make my bracket smaller, and then I change the color again. And then I make it smaller. And then again. And then again. Okay, so just a little design I made there. Back to the layers thing, this is a good example now. You can see we drew all these designs on layer 2. So if I turn off this little eye, well, you can tell me what that does. Clearly, takes it away. And again, you'll see there the little yellow box that opened up. It says right there, indicates layer visibility. Okay, so that turns on and off the layers. So at this point, you're beginning to understand a little bit about how Photoshop works. I'm going to show you one or two more things, and then we'll move on to a project. This is the opacity. Okay, you see what that's doing? It lightens it and darkens it. Okay, I'm going to also show you quickly the shapes. Okay, again, left click, you can see all kinds of shapes. So if I wanted to do a rounded rectangle, I click on that one. Okay, and the stroke is the outline. I can tell what kind of stroke I want, and the point is how thick that stroke is. Okay, and again, you can do this for all kinds of shapes. See, this is a polygon. Now, just to talk to you again so we don't forget, this move tool is important. If I wanted to move this polygon, I must click on the move tool and bring it around. Now I can't move the rectangle or the square that I made because I'm not on that layer. So it's important that you don't forget about your layers. If you want to move the rectangle, you most certainly can if you click on the layer. If you want to move this snake, or how about if you wanted to erase this? How about I want to erase this circle? Well, it's a little annoying with such a small eraser. Go ahead and go to your brackets on your keyboard and make your eraser a little bit bigger. And there you go. I can actually make my eraser so big that I just, go ahead and erase everything. That's all, folks.